What's up, everybody? Axe Wizard here, back with another video about my favorite tabletop RPG, Cairn. This time we're looking at the second edition and a tool that was made for it called Kettlewright. And Kettlewright has a whole bunch of cool features about it. So you can see that I've made some characters here already. I messed up on the gold. I didn't roll the gold for them, so I just rolled it after. But let me zoom in here so we can all see. So the nice thing about this site too is that I believe it works on mobile as well. Because if I were to bring open the inspect window, so you can see over here how it kind of squishes everything and it puts it in a hamburger menu up top here. So it will work on small screens. So you can do various things with it, which is nice. I do like that feature. So in a pinch, you can pull it out on your phone and just go to the website, and it might not be perfectly optimized for mobile. So for example, like the menu up here at the top, not really great for mobile. Typically for mobile, you'll have the menu like on the bottom where your fingers can actually reach it. But in a pinch, it still works. At least it has everything displayed on the screen, and you can even get stupid tiny. It still handles it. So like right here, this is probably about the resolution of a phone, and you can clearly see everything that it has. So even if I go to characters and I make a brand new character, we go through the whole process here. Everything is here. You can scroll through it and see it. So that's a big plus. Being mobile, being usable on mobile. That's awesome, because I find myself sometimes just pulling it out, and especially one feature that I'll show in a second, but I love this tool. It's great. So, oh my God, there's so much I haven't even looked at with it yet. So let's explore it together. So rolling a new character, right? So you can just roll everything and it will randomize a portrait. It'll randomize the background. It'll choose a name. For every background, there's like 2 tables that you roll on that determines like additional starting gear and also like a little bit of backstory stuff. It rolls those for you. It rolls your attributes. It rolls your hit protection. It rolls all of your traits. It rolls your age, your bonds. If there's any applicable omens with that background, such as the foundling, they have an omen that they have to roll. And it populates your inventory and also rolls your gold if you rolled everything. And then you could just save that character. So right here, bam, I just rolled a new character with the click of a button. Now, if I want to hit reset, and I reset the character. And what if I just want to do bits and pieces? Well, you see we have these dice buttons on the side here, so you can roll what you want, or you can just click the field and then you can pick from the options. So for example, I just did a video on the foundling background for second edition. So the next background I'm going to look at is the fungal forager. So I'm just going to make a character that I'm going to use for that next video here. So I know that I want the fungal forager background. Let's randomize what name it has, and the names are determined like by the backgrounds, which I think is nice. So Unther is a good name. Per, Rattan, Morella, Current, Morella, Madrigal, Leif. So I'm going to go with Hilda's a nice one. Leif, let's go with, I don't know. What options does it give us? So Woozy. I'm going to go with Woozy. Woozy sounds fun. I can't believe I didn't get that randomized, but hey, whatever. So you can randomize, or you can click from the field to select whatever stuff you want. And you can see here, it gives you like the little blurb about what the background is. You follow the whisperings of the deep earth, the rhythmic pulse of the mycelium forest that grows beneath the surface. The dark holds no terror for you. Also, you really love mushrooms. So that's what the background is. And then you get to randomize the 2 tables. So what strange fungus did you discover? Short cup. Ingest it to shrink down to the size of a mouse. Your belongings stay the same size. Oh my God, I'm going to keep that one. That one sounds fun. You return to normal size within the hour. Often in fits and starts. 1 use. Okay. Interesting. What keeps you sane even in utter darkness? Bam. So a lux compass hums softly as it moves closer to the sun. Eventually the noise becomes unbearably loud. Okay. Interesting. Does that mean you get too close to the sun? So many. Okay, I'm not even going to go into that. I'm going to save that for the video delving into this background. But you can pick that, or you can choose what options you want, right? So now you can roll your attributes. So I'm just going to go through. I'm just going to roll them. And boom, I just rolled everything. And then what you can do is that I think that you can swap a stat once. That's how the rules are. So for example, if I wanted I rolled pretty good for strength, but I got below average dexterity and willpower. Say for some reason, if I wanted to swap like my dexterity and willpower, I would swap dexterity and willpower, and then I would do that, and it would swap those. And then now I can't swap them again as per the rules, but I could always come in here and just manually edit this and put it back how it was if I want to. It still gives you that customization so that you can do stuff, which is nice. So I'd roll 3 hit protection, which is like right in the middle. And then I can randomize all the traits if I want, or I can even just go through here and then just pick the ones I want. So I'm just going to randomize all the traits. And it even gives you like a little blurb here. You have a brawny physique, rosy skin, and curly hair. Your face is bony. Your speech is precise. You have antique clothing. You are tolerant and vain. So it just gives you all those traits right there. I'm going to roll it again because I feel like I've gotten precise speech like 3 times, but it's just, you only have like 10 options for like speech, and yeah, you're bound to get repeats. So that's fine. You have a lanky physique, soft skin, and oily hair. Your face is perfect. Your speech is cryptic. You have elegant clothing. You are honorable and greedy. I'm just going to keep that. For age, you get to roll that. He's 42. Bonds, you get to roll a bond, and I don't think that we have to roll an omen for this background, so I'm just not going to do that. Old journal, cool. And then it gives you like what your inventory is based on all your choices and everything. So awesome, you get all this stuff, and you can even click this little eye right here if you want a description about what it is, which is really handy. And then so you can save the character. Boom. So there you go, I saved it. Oh, I also forgot to pick a portrait. So if I click the portrait here, it has a bunch of these portraits that you can put in here, or you can do a custom image. You can't upload it to the site directly. You have to host it somewhere. So for example, if, I don't know, you put it on like Imager, or if you put it on somewhere that's publicly accessible by the site. So even if it's like, I think a Google Drive link or something that's just shared to everybody, it might be able to pull it from that as well. So yeah, there's options here, but it gives you a few things. So let's go back and pick what is his, what's his stuff? Where's his traits? 42-year-old, you have lanky physique, soft skin, oily hair, perfect face, cryptic speech, you have elegant clothing. Elegant clothing. Okay, you are honorable and greedy. So I have a candle helmet. That's awesome. A candle helmet. That's cool. Let's see. A metal pail. Okay. So I think I have an idea. So let's see. Elegant clothing. Perfect face. There you go. Boom. Look at that. Elegant clothing. Oily hair. That looks like it works for me. Let's save that. There we go. So we got Woozy. It's not quite a candle helmet, but hey, is there one that has a candle helmet? That'll be kind of funny. Candle helmet. I don't see one, so I'm just going to keep it how it is. So there you go. I'm going to save that. Cool. So there you go. I just made a character, and yeah, easy peasy. I like it. And there's tons of other tools as well. So in addition to characters, you can create parties, and you can have multiple characters in parties. So this is also a tool for the warden to be able to track like their party and everything. Now, I haven't messed with this yet, so I'm just going to name it testing party. And the description I'm going to put for science, right? I'm going to save the party. So here we go. Oh, interesting. No members in this party. So you can give a join code. So I wonder if your players can make their own characters on Kettlewright, and then you can give them this join code. And then I imagine that if I go back to my character, like say if I go back to Woozy here, can I add him to a party? Yeah, party. Does not belong to a party. So I can put in the join code, and I can save. And if I go back to my parties, look at that. I have a member. So this says to me that your players can manage their characters on Kettlewright, and then you can join them in a party, and then the warden can keep track of the party, which is kind of nice. So if we edit the party, does it give us the option to, so you can add more additional items and containers? I wonder if this is, so it has party inventory. I wonder if this is how, I wonder if this is just like storage, like back at base or something. So if you have, you know, stuff at base or whatnot, you can add a container. So it's not carried, container name. Yeah, so you can handle all this stuff. So it's just sort of like a stash that you can keep at whatever base or wherever they're at. So if I wanted to add like a container, I can say like chest at the house, right? And say that the chest just has like 6 slots or something like that. And it's not carried at all. Bam, I can do that. And then I can go and I can switch between the containers, which is nice. Maybe the main inventory is used for like hirelings or something like that. I don't know. I would imagine you would just make a hireling character and then throw them in there, but I don't know. Interesting. So cool. I haven't messed with this yet. So you can add characters to a party. I'm going to remove Woozy from the party because I don't want him to be in the party. Okay. And I'm just going to delete this party because I don't need it right now. I was just testing it for science, but that's a really cool tool. So then now there's a section called tools, which has a bunch of stuff. So what tools do we want? Oh, monsters, events, weather, world building, items. Holy cow. So I've been meaning to do a video on it, but I just haven't. Maybe I might do it soon. But I printed out like the entire Warden's Guide in a frickin' binder. The reason why it looks so big is because I was only able to print single side. And so I've been going through the Warden's Guide because I like to have something in my hands. You know, I already have the PDFs. I even tried pulling it up on my phone. At one point, I even converted it to like an EPUB and put it on my old Nook tablet because I just like to have something in my hands. And it's just not the same as a book. So I'm slowly going through it. Just looking through it, though, there's lots of stuff in it that I really enjoyed. So there's a whole thing about world building, factions and regions and realms and all sorts of different stuff. You can generate weather. There's all the procedures that were outlined in the player's guide during the playtest, such as the travel, the dungeon exploration. All that stuff is outlined in greater detail in the Warden's Guide. And there's lots of surrounding tools and tables that you can roll on to make things easier, which is nice. So let's just start with monsters, because this is one of my favorite things. It easily lets you generate monsters. So once you pick the first one, you got to choose the second one. So you could do a random monster, which I believe this just picks from the bestiary or the bestiary, whatever you want to call it, right? The book of beasts and stuff, the book of dangers to the player party, right? So I can pick a random monster and I can just randomize that. Boom. So we have a Naga. 6 hit protection, 1 armor, 14 strength, 12 dexterity sword. It's got its bite is a D10. Humanoids with the lower body, tail, and neck of snakes. Dwell in hot jungles and temples, lost to time. Use cunning and hypnosis to capture other creatures to be enslaved. Holy cow. Gaze. A target facing the Naga is hypnotized, falling under its will. Its victims cannot be compelled to violence. Cannot be compelled to violence. Wow, that's a tough one. So the cool thing is that it basically puts it in this text box here, right? So I can either highlight the parts that I want, or since this is the only thing I have here, I can just copy this and I can paste it into like whatever editor or whatever thing I want to use. So if I'm just pulling up like a notepad or something here, let's see, I was doing some course or whatever on that. I can just paste it in there and just kind of keep like a little scratch pad of maybe stuff I want to do in an encounter later. So I can do that, and I can just keep randomizing stuff, and it will keep adding it. Now, whenever you copy, it copies everything that is down here, so you can always clear it and then randomize again. So here we have a Minotaur, Frost Elf, Eye of Terror, which is cool, Nightmare. So these are all just stuff that are pre-made monsters that are included in the Bestiary in 2nd edition. Cool stuff. Let's clear this and get to the fun stuff. So now we have Custom Monster. Now, the Warden's Guide has a whole section on creating your own monsters, and I've used it a few times. Even so, I did a game with my boys a little while ago. We just did a quick what is it? We just did a first edition. Hang on, cut this out. We just did a quick like 1st edition, so I just rolled 1st edition characters, and then because it was super quick and easy, and they were just kind of raring to go. And I was trying to figure out, well, what kind of monsters. So I rolled some custom monsters using the Warden's Guide, and it has like a bunch of tables to basically pick the physiology of the monster. What features does it have? Like what's its weaknesses? What does it prefer to target? Like all this cool stuff, right? So I just rolled a custom monster, and it gives you these like 8 tables that you roll on. The physique is iridescent. The feature is guild. Quirks, alters its size at will. Mirrors, or weakness, mirrors. Attack, sprays. Critical damage, breaks. Ability, shapes, and the target for its ability is the body. So holy cow. So you can interpret this so many ways, and it's one of the things that I love about the Cairn system is that it gives you just enough to prod your imagination to get started, but it doesn't explicitly define everything for you. Like there's not paragraphs and paragraphs of like it's not reading legal jargon like like D&D or Pathfinder can be. Now, it's okay to like that stuff. Sometimes it is nicer to have, those firmly defined rules, and that's perfectly fine. But I prefer just much open rulings, not rules approach. Because for me, as a warden who's super freaking busy all of the time, I don't want to spend my time getting a degree in D&D or Pathfinder to be able to understand all the rules and be able to adjudicate it properly. And I also don't want to have to spend hours and hours doing prep. I'm a much more off-the-cuff kind of person. And I find that when I do lots of hours and hours of prep, it's usually ends up being like a railroading session, and that can just be my faults as a GM, DM, warden, whatever, and I perfectly admit that, But this gives you just enough to poke your imagination, and then you can take it from there and make it whatever you want. So physique, iridescent. Is it like, does it dwell in, so it's iridescent and its feature is guild. So I assume it's an underwater thing. So maybe it's, you can see it underwater and you see this glow, and maybe it might make itself, look all small like a little pebble because it can alter its size at will. And its weakness is mirrors. So that could be interesting. Maybe you can get some insight before you go tackle this monster or whatnot, or maybe there's clues or there's like a mirror lying around or something. You can bake that into your dungeon, encounter, whatever it is, right? And its attack is that it sprays. Doesn't say what it sprays, but it sprays something. So since it's iridescent and it's under its guild, so it can breathe underwater, it probably sprays something. So maybe it sprays like some sort of acidic ink or something, right? Cool. It sprays something. Or maybe it just sprays scalding hot water. That's easy. And then on critical damage, it breaks something. So what does it break? Well, it can break an item. It can break armor. It can break bones, right? It breaks something. And it has the ability to shape and I assume it can be, it just says target body, so it can be its own body. Could it be the body of an enemy? That could be pretty brutal. Like, imagine you're trying to fight this thing and it just shapes your body into like a freaking vegetable or something. That might be overpowered. So I probably wouldn't do that. I might just rule that it has the ability to shape its own body. So it already has a quirk to where it can alter its size at will, but it can also shape its body. So it can be a little tiny cockroach, or maybe it can be a huge ass dragon. Who knows, right? So a very cool underwater shapeshifter thing that sprays, and when it deals critical damage, it breaks stuff. Right there, that is a hell of a boss. It doesn't even give you like stats or anything. You make those yourself. You determine how big a threat you want this to be. And maybe this doesn't suit like my encounter. Maybe like, I don't know, there's just no water somewhere nearby. I already have a dungeon rolled, and you know, there's no underground caverns or anything. It's just, it doesn't suit, right? Let's just do another one. So now we just rolled another monster. Physique, black. Feature, tusks. Quirks, does not die of old age. Interesting. Weakness, silver. Attack, smashes. Critical damage, dissolves. Ooh. Ability, reverses target metal. Okay, so right away, this is also, can be, like, if you give these criteria to like 10 different wardens, they're going to come up with like 10 different monsters, which is so cool. So physique, black. What does that mean? It just means it's very, very dark. So I assume it blends into the night, right? Now, it could also mean that maybe it is like obsidian or it's stone. You can also interpret it that way. So it has a feature of tusks. So you could say, okay, this thing does, you know, D8 damage with like tusks or whatever, right? And he also has an additional attack where he smashes things. Okay, cool. So I can make it like a black obsidian monster with tusks that does not die of old age because it's freaking obsidian, right? Weakness is silver. Could be cool. It's a magical creature. Obsidian's not necessarily weak to silver, I don't think, but whatever. It's magic. Weakness is silver, so that could be cool. Imagine shanking this guy with like some silverware, like a silverware butter knife. That'd be kind of funny. Attack, smashes. So a smash, what does that mean? You can interpret that in different ways. Is it like a blast attack, depending on how big it is, because it can smash multiple players? Potentially. Depending on the size of it, it doesn't say what the size of it is. You can make it as big or as small as you want, and you can adjust the stats accordingly. Critical damage, dissolves. Now, this is something that is awesome. Dissolves what? I would assume probably dissolves like an item or something first. I wouldn't want it to necessarily dissolve a player character. But maybe it dissolves, doesn't say what it dissolves, just dissolves something. So that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. Ability, reverses, and the target is metal. So reverses metal. What the hell does that even mean? I don't know, but I could think of some funny stuff. Like, imagine you got a sword, right? And this enemy goes to reverse the metal, and maybe what it does is it makes the blade upside down, and so now it's like super flimsy or something. I don't know. Or maybe it reverses the edge, so where it's like thinner in the middle of the sword and then the edges are thick, so then it becomes a blunted weapon. I don't know. Reverses metal. I don't know. So it's all these thought-provoking things, right? Super cool. So let's just do another custom monster, right? Physique, eyeless. Feature, horns. Quirks, moves in a straight line. Cool. So now you can develop strategies against it. Weakness, games. What if you're playing chess and you got to move like a knight does, where it's like, 1 over and like 3 forward or whatever. That would be funny. Or 1 over and 2 forward, whatever. Just leave me alone, right? I don't know. I don't know how to play chess. So attack, whips, critical damage, blinds, ability, binds, target, weather. How does it bind the weather? That'd be cool. So it's an eyeless horned being that only moves in a straight line. Its weakness is games. When it attacks, it whips. So I assume it has like these like appendages that just whip out and attack things. Critical damage is that it blinds a character. Ability to bind the weather. Wow, that could be awesome. Imagine you're just traveling through the forest and you get like an encounter and you roll up this bad boy and all of a sudden like the weather just changes and the players are like hella concerned, and the next thing you know it's like this eyeless horned monster just comes moving in a straight line, and then they all dodge out of the way and it just keeps moving. I wonder, it moves in a straight line. Does it always move in a straight line? Can it stop and turn? I would imagine like while it moves, it can only move in a straight line. So that would be kind of funny. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many. So being able to roll custom monsters is cool. Sometimes you're not always going to get stuff that makes sense. You can try to make it make sense. And that is, I think that leads to the mystery and intrigue of the setting of Vald, which is the setting in second edition. Because it's like, especially when you start getting into the roots, which is like an alternate, basically freaking dimension where stuff is nuts. Oh yeah, you get some weird stuff. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to make sense. But the players have to figure out how to beat this puzzle or avoid it or disable it or gain an advantage on it. So for example, the weakness, games, if they bust out like a deck of cards or something like that, and maybe it just stops and it's just like looking at the cards and it can't move while it's playing cards. And maybe like it tries to play the cards and ends up like whipping itself all the time because it can't handle the cards or whatever. I don't know. You can rig up all sorts of stuff. So another option they have in the monsters category is reaction roll. So again, not every time you encounter a monster is it necessarily going to be hostile to you. Or even you can even do this for like NPCs. So for example, if you meet a traveler on the road, you can roll a reaction roll for them, and their reaction to the players is going to be they're wary of them. So maybe they keep a healthy distance, right? So we rolled again and we got curious. So maybe, a monster or something is curious about the player, not necessarily hostile, but just kind of curious, just kind of scoping them out, Curious again, curious, very, very curious, kind. So maybe you have a monster who's kind, who likes humans, right? Wary, kind, helpful. Ooh, something who's helpful. So all this stuff is just baked right in, right? And that's just in the monsters section. Now we have events. We can have dungeon events, or we can have wilderness events. So wilderness events, let's roll that. A sign. The party discovers a clue, spore, or indication of a nearby encounter, locality, hidden feature, or information about a nearby area. Awesome. Encounter. Roll on the encounter table for the terrain type or location. Don't forget to roll for NPC reactions if applicable. So, okay, you can do all that. Dungeon events. Lost. Torches are blown out. An ongoing spell fizzles, etc. The party must resolve the effect before moving on. So it has all this stuff baked in right here. So there you go, dungeon events. Now, weather. You can pick what season you're in. So spring, you'll roll that. Inclement weather. Add a fatigue or add 1+1 watch. Increase terrain difficulty by step. Examples, thunderstorms, lightning, rain, muddy ground, right? So in second edition, it adds these things called modules, which are optional things. Or no, not modules, procedures, which are optional things that are modular that you can choose whether or not to include them or not, or even just bits and pieces that you like. So for example, when I first looked at the procedures for wilderness exploration and dungeon exploration, it felt a bit rules heavy to me. And so I chose when I play the games not to use those features, but I still like bits and pieces of them. So here where it says effect, add a fatigue or add +1 watch. The watch is part of the procedures of like overworld travel and traveling to places. And so I might not choose to do the watch part. Maybe adding a fatigue could be cool, or maybe I can just simply, hand wave it and say like it takes longer to get to your destination. So maybe they might have to buckle down somewhere and set up camp, right? So increases terrain difficulty by a step. That's also part of the procedure. It sort of determines, I think it was determining how far you can travel with the terrain. So cool stuff. So weather, and you can do winter and unpleasant, add a fatigue or add 1 watch to the journey, gusting winds, rain showers, sweltering heat, chill air, whatever it's going to be, right? So yeah, it has all that stuff. So weather, awesome. World building, this is a lot of stuff that's in the Warden's Guide. And you can see here, it gives us a bunch of stuff. You can create an NPC. Name, Lucian. Background, gravedigger. Virtue, resourceful. Vice, he's greedy. Quirk is that he's bald. And his goal is unity, right? So you can make this NPC and you can apply it to any faction. Well, what's a faction? Let's take a look at that. Faction, the Coalition of the Dawn. Type, explorers. Agent, politician. Trait 1, fierce. Trait 2 is that they're cunning. The advantages of this faction is that they are wealthy. Their agenda is to infiltrate another faction, and the obstacle is must be carried out at a rare or exact moment. So what does all this stuff mean? So when you're creating factions, this just gives you the bullet points to help flesh them out and make it a believable, breathing thing, and that you as the Warden can weave that into your narrative however you want. So you have this faction named the Coalition of the Dawn. They are a faction of explorers. They have an agent that the players might actually interact with, who is a politician. Maybe he's trying to advance the goals or the agenda of this faction. So their traits are that they're fierce and they're cunning. So maybe this politician, if the players don't have a favorable encounter with this politician, maybe he might view them as a threat to their agenda and might hire assassins to them or something because they are fierce and cunning. Maybe he himself might try to do the job himself. The advantages is that they are wealthy, so that also lends into them potentially hiring assassins to take out the party if they view them as a threat to this faction's agenda. What is their agenda? Infiltrate another faction. Maybe the politician tries to bring them on to hire them for a job to do this, and maybe the party's not so keen on it, so now they're viewed as a threat. Maybe, so what faction are they trying to infiltrate? I don't know. You roll or make another faction, and weave their agendas and stuff, and you'll have competing factions, and you'll have a realistic world building narrative that you don't have to introduce to the players right off the bat. This is more stuff for the Warden to keep in mind. You can already have this stuff determined, and so you can loosely define it. That way you can change it as needed on the fly, because let's be honest, you can define everything about a faction, what their goals are, blah, 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 and then the players might end up like blowing up a faction or something like that, right? Players are nuts. They do whatever the hell they want, and that's awesome. So maybe you might be able to adjust the faction so you can still carry out like your overarching narrative that you were going for, but not in a railroady way and in a more fluid and dynamic way that's much more believable, and also I think just more intuitive and also more immersive as well. So the obstacle is it must be carried out at a rare or exact moment. So maybe their agenda right now is to infiltrate this other faction, but they have to do it, say, during a celebration or something like that, to where maybe they can frame it on a different faction so that they don't have to have any liability themselves. That's something that could be absolutely feasible. So bam, it just gives you that right here. And this is, again, this stuff is a supplemental tool. This is the Warden's tools. So this all goes hand in hand with the Warden's Guide. So I'm going to do a video on the Warden's Guide at some point once I do some more reading on it and wrap my head around it more. I've seen lots of stuff in it that I like so far. Some stuff I don't understand yet, and I'm kind of waiting for the actual books to be in my hands. So the Kickstarter is estimated to be fulfilled around March still, I think. It was a March or May. I think it was March of 2025. So that's what I'm kind of waiting on. I might make a cursory, like, first impressions of the Warden's Guide video, and then I might do a full deep dive into it later once I have the actual book. But you can also create an entire realm. So the realm, the Ashen Fiefdom of the Devil. Sounds awesome. The people are altruistic. Their ambition is to is division. So maybe they want to, like, separate themselves from, like, you know, like, I don't like the South, I want to be separate from them, or, you know, whatever it is, right? Abundance, fuel, scarcity, wood. Interesting. So maybe they burn, like, something like, I don't know, coal or peat, even like peat bogs, pitch, I don't know. Scarcity is wood. So the factions they have in this realm is the Dismal Clan of the Ghost, which, again, it rolls a faction for you. I wish there was a thing that would allow you to roll more factions, but you can easily just, like, when you're building the realm, you can pick what number of factions you want. I think that'd be cool. But here it just gives you one faction, which is fine. It gives you the terrain of the realm. You got plateaus, you got some forests, and there's some landmarks in those. Gives you the weather that it typically has for this region during every season, and any unusual weather that it has, which can be optional. It gives you some points of interests. So yeah, I'm going to roll another realm. And it does the same thing, right? So there's lots of terrain in this realm. There's lots of points of interest. So when you look through the Warden's Guide and you look through all the rules, the procedures for, like, realm building and stuff like that, you can make massive realms, you can make smaller ones, which I prefer to do. And it's really cool. So now within there, you know, you have these terrain, you have some forests, you have some points of interest, right? And then you can roll a forest, which has some traits: gnarled stones, hallowed, frozen. Virtue is that it's clever. Vice is that it's parasitic. Its goal is integration. The obstacle is oppression. So you have, even the forest is technically like a faction because it's not governed by man. Points of interest, and then trails. So again, forest is, yeah, cool. Awesome stuff. And then you can also generate dungeons. So you have dungeon. Original use was a military outpost. It was built by a renowned alchemist. The entrance is under a bridge. The composition is that it's made of living plants. Imagine living pants. Sounds like a monster. The condition is that it's cursed. The cause of it is competing rituals. So there's factions in there. There's dungeon factions, not like realm factions, but dungeon factions. So the denizens that are in there, their virtue is that they're witty, their vice is that they're absent-minded. The goal is to, like, maybe transformation the place, and the obstacle is the injustice of what brought them there. I don't know, right? I'm just making that up. It's right here. So it generates 14 rooms. That's a massive-ass dungeon. 14 rooms. The first one has a trap, and it drops, or it's an opening. So it gives you all these different things, and these correspond to the more dungeon procedures, which I haven't really delved into much. So it has all this stuff here, which is nice. So, and then last but not least, we have items. You can generate items. You can generate relics, which are items that you can use that have cool effects. So this is a cool one. Sponge Army, one use. 12 miniature soldiers made of carved sea sponges. When splashed with water, they grow to full size. They have 8 hit protection, 6 strength, 13 dexterity, and 5 willpower. Hardened sponge D6 is how they deal damage. And they're also a detachment. And follow the orders of the person they see until they are destroyed or dry out completely, which takes about 10 minutes. So that's awesome. So that's just a one-use thing. There's no way to recharge it, which is fine, because it seems like it'd be pretty overpowered. So maybe you could find this. It's a one-time use. You throw it on the ground. You got an army of sponges, especially if you dump some water on them. Hell yeah, that's cool. A sticky rope, 1 charge, a 100-foot rope that can stick to any surface. To recharge it, you have to cut 10 feet off the rope, which then withers away. Awesome. I love it. Whisper Gale, 1 use. A balloon-shaped plant that captures a spoken message and delivers it to a location within a day's walk. Cool. Only has 1 use, though. Can't recharge it. So those are relics. And then you can have spell books, which, if you remember in first edition, there's like a D100 you can roll, and it gives you like 100 different spells. In second edition, I think it keeps those same D100. Maybe it has an optional, I think at one point there was like an expanded spellbook list that was like 600 some odd spells, which is nuts. I think that they also kept those as optional in second edition. I'm not sure. I haven't looked too closely yet. But spellbooks have, and I think it was intended in the first edition, but it wasn't really well defined. They've defined it better in second edition to where spellbooks have like their own personality and characteristics. So I'm going to clear this out. Let's roll a spellbook. Target lure. An object you touch becomes the target of any nearby spell. That's awesome. Personality. Attracts all manner of magical creatures, spell leaks, and scrying. So not only does it do something when you're actually using it and, you following the rules of spell books, but it also can have narrative things that happen with spell books. So, for example, attracts all manner of magical creatures. Even though you've got it buried in your pack, maybe magical creatures just kind of find you out while you have this spell book. Like they have a chance to just be attracted to it. Maybe a spell leak. I don't know what that is, but that sounds intriguing. Maybe if someone is trying to scry on somebody and you're nearby, they start scrying on your target lure book, which can be a liability. So, man, all sorts of cool stuff. Let's roll another spell book. Widget. A primitive version of a drawn tool or item appears before you and disappears after a short time. Personality. Smells of iron and rust, sweat, and effort. Faint sounds of harsh labor emanate from deep within its pages. Love it. Vision. You completely control what a creature sees. Personality. An unnerving, lidless eye graces the front cover. Oh, cool. Cone of foam. Dense foam sprays out from your hand, coating the target. Personality. Spongy and moist with a soapy residue. So, generates spell books, which is awesome. So there's all these things that can just make my job as a warden so much easier, and my job as a player so much easier because I can just make a bunch of characters. And it makes my job as a YouTuber even easier because I'm going through and creating 3 characters for every background. And before I would have to pull up the PDF and go to the different things, and I would actually roll dice on the tables, and which is fun. I like doing that, but I don't like doing it like 3 times a week to make a bunch of characters. Sometimes I just want to make characters rapidly and just have it do it for me. And this is perfect for that. You can also export it to, or you can upload JSON. Interesting. Cool. How do I go back? So I wonder if I get a character and I edit them, can I export them? Yes. So you can download the JSON file of it, which is cool. Save. Character data. Let's go to my downloads. And what was it called? Character data.json. So if we pop this open in a text editor, you can see that it has all this stuff here. Let me just pull this up here and zoom in a bit. So if you're not familiar with JSON, it's JavaScript object notation. It's an interchange format. It's basically a way to store everything. And so this is a real nice way to be able to export a character. So say, for example, if I rolled a character and maybe like my son is really excited about the character and he wants to play it, I can export it and he can import it into his account and then he can manage it from there. Awesome. So this is just an interchange format. If you know what you're doing, you can tweak things here, but if you tweak things, you might break stuff. So for example, if you end up tweaking something to be like, so for example, this sprout cup, if I tweak this ID to be something like 12, it's going to be out of bounds. It might crash the site. So I wouldn't mess with the JSON, because you can do everything you need to do from within this thing here. So that's cool. It allows you to export it and import it. You can add characters to parties. As a warden, you can manage the party there. I think this is super cool. So yeah. Anyway, that is Kettlewright. Let's take a look at the about. You can see Kettlewright is a free open source application for managing characters and parties for the Cairn adventure game. Currently, it's in beta. You can view the wiki, submit issues, or check out the source code on GitHub. I already took a look at the source code. It's written in Python, I think, using the Flask framework, which is nice. I haven't messed with it myself, but I've been delving into a different technology called HTMX, and their book that they have, they give a demo of it using Python and Flask, and it seems like it's a pretty simple thing, which is nice. So David Stearns is the guy who made it. Software development, QA, and testing. He's the guy who programmed it. So then we have Yochai, who's the creator of Cairn. He does project design, DevOps, and documentation. We have Tlam Dev, who is did the token art that's licensed under CC BY 4.0, which is nice. And then we have Adam Hensley, who does the logo and the favicon art. So cool. So he did the little Kettlewright logo here, and he did the little icon art for the webpage. Super cool. It has all the tools. So this is the tools that were used to make it. Flask, a lightweight Python framework for building web applications. Gunicorn, a green Python-based WSGI HTTP server for Unix-like systems. Interesting. SQLite, fast-contained, full-featured SQL database engine. Redis, a real-time in-memory structure store for use as a database cache and message broker. Docker, very nice. So they have a sophisticated setup for this. If you're using Redis and Docker and even SQLite, I would imagine they're just storing stuff in a database so they can make stuff changes easier without having to do like source code changes all the time, which makes sense. And I don't know Redis. I've used Redis in the past. It was a caching thing. I've never set it up, but I managed an application that used it. For Docker, I use Docker quite a bit, especially to simplify local testing, but it can be used to, rapidly scale things, especially in Kubernetes clusters. But it basically allows you to create, it's like a little mini operating system that's you just plug into a computer, right? And it has all your dependencies needed. So I would imagine since they're using Unix-like systems, they're probably using something like Linux, like I am now. Because Linux is really good. A lot of the world uses Linux for deploying web applications and things like that, because it's a lot better than Windows, a lot less overhead. You don't have to restart the entire damn server every time you want to do an update. You just have to restart the specific service that's being updated, unless you're doing a kernel update, in which case you do have to restart. Magic.css, classless CSS framework designed by Wintervale. Interesting. A classless CSS framework. I might look into that. And then Bulma, a modern CSS framework based on Flexbox. I don't typically see multiple CSS frameworks because usually those can have conflicts. But anyway, that's enough of me nerding out about how it's made. It also has a light and dark mode. I'm going to go back to dark mode because that hurts. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to me ramble. Definitely check out Kettlewright. When you first go to it, it will be, I'm already logged in, but when you first go to it, it will have you create an account, and then you can do whatever you want with it. It's awesome. And even if you wanted to see how it was made, and if you're tech savvy, you want to host it yourself, you can do that too, I think, since it's open source. You can see the GitHub. You might even be able to make tweaks yourself if you want to fork it and make it your own. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and listening to me ramble. Hopefully this tool is useful to you. I know it's useful to me. And I will see you in whatever video I make next.